prepaid call from an inmate at the Virginia Department of Corrections, Red Onion State Prison. To accept this call, press 0.
This is Red Onion Randy, coming at you from Red Onion State Prison, and this is my childhood. This is the story about what led me to making the choices and decisions that I made, the pressures that were forced upon me, and the anger and the pain, and the things that I just did not know how to deal with. The first thing I guess I have to say about my childhood, we was dirt poor. We lived in a trailer. My mom, my dad, and me and my two brothers. And we had running water, but we didn't have no toilet. We didn't have no heat. We had an outhouse for that. We had to have kerosene. For us to eat, we had to have a vegetable garden. Otherwise, we couldn't afford vegetables. And it wasn't a bad life, and it's the being poor really wasn't what led me to being so violent, so volatile in my temperament and my outlook on life. It was the abuse, the constant abuse that I went through. My older brother, Linwood, he was the firstborn grandson of the family, so he was special. And then my younger brother, Jason, he was the baby of the family, so he was special. I was in the middle. And not only that, everybody thought that I was going to be a girl. Even the doctors at UVA Hospital thought that I was a girl. So they had a name picked out for me. They was going to name me Sarah after my great-grandmother. When I came out and I had something swinging between my legs, they didn't know what to do. So they was completely disappointed in the fact that I was a boy and I wasn't a girl. To the point that they didn't even take time to think of a name for me. They just literally put names in a hat and plucked out my name, Randall. And that's how I got my name. It was plucked from a piece of paper in a hat. Ever since then, they've had that disregard for me. There were moments of love. There just wasn't enough of them. There was way, way more abuse than there was love. Whether I had anything to do with it. It didn't matter if I was responsible for the trouble that was caused or, just boys being boys. And that's all we were. We were boys being boys. You had my Uncle Kevin, which was a couple years older than us because he was the baby of the family on his side. She would call a surprise birth. Then you had my older brother and then me and my younger brother and whatnot. We're running around playing and just doing what boys do, climbing trees, yelling and cussing and fighting, and fishing and hunting and doing all that, cool, stupid stuff that boys love to do, especially in the countryside. My dad was just so miserable. He was so angry with his life. I guess he didn't have the looks he thought he should have. He didn't have the money he thought he should have. He didn't have the women hanging off his pecker like he thought he should have. He didn't have the house or the cars or none of these things that he thought he should have. And instead of manning up, taking responsibility for his own life, going out and working and doing the things that he needed to do to get the life that he wanted and thought that he should have, he just beat the living hell out of me instead. I guess it took much less energy to whoop my ass since I was a child than it is to actually work hard and get the things you want in life. And when I say he whooped my ass, I don't mean he gave me a light spanking. I mean he beat me half to death on several occasions. And if you don't think you can beat someone to death with a leather belt, you've never had your ass whooped. There were numerous times where from my neck to my ankles, I would have welts crisscrossing every single inch of my skin. Blood blisters a half-inch thick. Welts a half-inch thick. I mean, so bad that you can barely walk. And no one cared. I mean, the people at school that saw, they thought it was normal. The family around me, they thought that was normal behavior. That's how you chastise a child. For anything. Got to the point, I became so tough, so hard to paint. My dad used to make me and my brothers fight each other with sawed-off 2x4s just to make us tough. Just so if we did get into a fight, we wouldn't get knocked out, we wouldn't get beat up. And that's where I got my love of fighting from. because I know it's going to take an extraordinary man to whoop my ass because of everything my dad put me through, of all the pain and the abuse that I suffered and endured as a kid. But just beating the hell out of a child, I mean, it just, it broke something in me. And even though every now and then there were some loving moments in my childhood, I never felt loved. I never felt cared for. I never felt protected. I never felt safe. I got to the point where I could get beat and I could just pop up and run off. And I mean, there were literally times like if company would come over, like my dad's friends or something would come over to visit, I would literally walk up and do something in front of them so my dad would have to beat my ass. And then I would get up and say afterwards, "Is that all you got, motherfucker?" And then I would just walk off. And I was doing it to impress the company. It got to the point like if I would cuss, he would make us drink Texas Pete hot sauce. I got to the point I could drink Texas Pete like it was Kool-Aid. I mean, it was nothing to me. And that's where I got in that mind frame. And then a bunch of my mom's friends were these old-timey Baptist, church-going, fake wannabe Christians. And I mean, every time you come over there, just kids being kids, while they're in there talking, we're outside playing. We're outside running, playing tag and all that. And they would come out and scream at me, "You're a piece of shit. You're no good. You're going to spend the rest of your life in prison if you're not dead by 18. And, they just constantly put me down. That's all I heard growing up. When they spoke that over my life, words have power. Words absolutely have power to change a person's destiny for the good or for the bad. And when you speak that stuff to a kid, when you tell that kid he's no good, it gives him an inferiority complex. It strips away any self-esteem, any self-confidence, any self-belief he has. And then he just starts doubting everything. He doesn't believe in anything. Nothing is sacred to him anymore. He just becomes more and more angry. He just filled with rage and just furiosity, I guess is the only thing I can really, call it. I never got words of encouragement. I never had those things. So even by the time my mom and dad split up and they kept, my grandma and them kept my older brother Linwood. The family, they banded around Linwood and took care of him. But they allowed me and Jason to be put in foster homes. And me and Jason were really, really tight as a kid. I would literally feed him from my plate just so he would have enough food. I would go hungry just to feed him, because we never had enough to eat. I can't remember how many times for dinner we would have a cup of rice each and we would sprinkle a little bit of sugar on it. And that was it. That's all we had to eat. That's all we could afford to have. So by the time we got to foster homes and they split us up, it was too late for me. And I went to my very first foster home was a great foster home. It was Robert and Joanne Albertson. I remember them to this day. I can picture them so clearly. They were good people, and they tried to love me, but I didn't know how to be loved. I didn't know how to accept love. I didn't even know how to use a toilet when I went there because, I was so used to an outhouse. I'm so used to using the bathroom in a small little pot, what people would call a chamber pot. They opened my eyes to so many different things and whatnot, but by that time, I didn't know how to accept peace. I didn't know how to accept love or kindness or, it scared the daylights out of me when they were nice to me. I didn't know what the hell was coming. I just kept waiting for the shoe to drop. I just kept waiting for Robert to just come in there one day and beat the hell out of me. I was constantly waiting for that. I was constantly on edge around everyone. Subconsciously, I had that mindset that, okay, if I didn't do nothing to get kicked out of my family. You know, I wasn't stealing. I wasn't breaking into people's homes. I wasn't doing anything bad or killing anything or doing stuff like that. I was just being a kid. I was just being me. You know, so I mean, I guess, you know, just subconsciously I had it in my head like, all right, you know what? If y'all don't want me, I'm going to give y'all a reason to not want me. I'm going to give y'all a reason to not love me. And from that point forward, I just became a straight up criminal. Robert and Joanne would take me to church, and I knew where they kept the collection plate, so I would sneak up there and I would steal money from the collection plates. I knew where they kept the key to their little Coke machine. I would go in, open the Coke machine up, and take some Cokes, and, you know, close it back up and hide it. And I just started doing all kinds of criminal stuff. I started getting into fights in school. You know, I never bullied anyone. That's one thing I cannot stand as a freaking bully. You bully someone in front of me and we're going to have some problems. One of us is going to get our ass whooped, and I don't care who. But I will not tolerate a bully anywhere. I had a hair trigger on my temper. You know, you disrespected me, I'm going to call you out. Once I got into that mindset, man, it just takes an extraordinary amount of pressure to bring you back to your senses. Getting a little emotional just thinking about this stuff and reliving it in my head. I just don't understand how someone can treat a child like that. I cannot tell you how many fights I've been in. I have literally been in life or death fights here in prison. And I would not treat my worst enemy like that, much less a child of my own flesh. You know, I don't understand what it is in these people's minds that make them abuse a child like that. I don't understand what can bring a person to do these things to someone, especially a child. Those are the things that led me to making the decisions that I made. Now, I don't hold my father or my parents or any of my family members responsible for my actions. I made the choice to do what I did, and I accept that responsibility. And I accept the fact that it was on me to change myself. It was on me to change the way I think and to change the way I react. You know, and that's the difference between a boy and a man. A boy reacts to a situation. A man responds to a situation. And that's the only difference. Manhood ain't about how big your pecker is. It ain't about how many women you slept with. It ain't about how big your house is or how big your muscles are or how good of a fighter you are. All that is bullshit. Anybody who tells you otherwise ain't a man. Boys react to a situation. They don't stop. They don't think. They just let their emotions dictate what they do. Men respond. They think about their actions. They think about the consequences. They think about how they want to deal with this. And that's one lesson I hope everybody who listens to this podcast takes. If you have children, teach them the difference between reacting and responding to a situation.
You have 1 minute remaining.
If you teach your child how to think, they'll never wind up with the life that I've led. They won't wind up here in prison. And they won't be doing a podcast from inside of Supermax. This is Red Onion Randy. I hope you check out my website, redonionrandy.com. I hope you enjoyed listening to me, and I hope that I can help you, that I can teach you, and on occasion, entertain the hell out of it. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you for using GTL.